All right. Let me see if I can make some improvements on some more of these real quick. These leaves have very good shading. I wouldn't do too much to the leaves, but I think you could do a little bit more to improve the venation or the detail. I don't know if it would be white in there or black in there, but just something like this is, I think, going to give you just enough to make the leaves a little bit more leafy. Yeah, that's helping. So doing like a white line right next to a black line, to me, that's making them just a bit more realistic. So something like that. Like this one looks pretty good now. I do think that adds. The other thing, I think the chameleon is just a little bit flat in the belly. So again, that's just like an issue of not completely pushing the molding as much as you could. There. So this is before, after. Before, after. This might be just a little bit too much. Again, like I feel like many of you are drawing things as if they're always just so flat. You need to always envision that these things are three-dimensional and make the shadows curve around the object. Okay, I think that's a decent improvement. This one, your textures on your skin is so good. The water's good. I do think there's like it's very difficult to improve this. I do think there's one thing you could add. I think you can add some splatter. And here. And here. Here. Let's see. Oh. Oh, I can't shut it off. I think that helps a little bit. Just that little bit. I think that helps. It's the final finishing touch. Nice. Very nice. Okay, so here I think this is a level up for you. I think you're definitely improving. There's good texture on the snake in the sense that the snake scales, they feel shiny. They do feel like snake scales. The mercat, you get the fur vibe. So you're getting good textures. But I still think you're struggling with like composition. And hopefully those videos that I made help this. Again, the one thing that bothers me is like this foot is not in the frame, and it also bothers me that the snake is not in the frame. So for example, think about it like this. Like here's how I would think about it. What is your intention of the piece? If your intention of the piece is the mercat versus the Cobra. Like that's what you want to do. Then my question is, how come 75% of your entire piece is sky and desert? So again, like you really need to think about what is the intention? What is it that I want to do? If the intention of the drawing is Mercat versus Cobra, then I would try to construct a sketch and a composition that is in fact 75% visually about Mercat versus Cobra, as opposed to having lots of sky and lots of land in the background. I do think you're making better compositional decisions though. Like I think you're doing a scene here and you've done like the three planes. So like you have the sky, you have the desert background, and then you have what's in the foreground. So that's good in a sense of like that's working. But I still think some of the parts of the composition are just not totally thought out. Like, what's the reason for having this come off the page? What's the reason for having this come off the page? It doesn't quite make sense to me. If I was to try to arrange some kind of a composition of like Mercat versus Cobra, like I'm gonna be thinking probably like again of getting like the Cobra fully like into the piece, and then also having like I again like I'm just sketching, I don't know what, but having some kind of like a Mercat interaction fully inside of the piece. And then your composition is truly like about that. And you don't have to worry so much about the rest of the elements in the scene. That's my best advice. But I do think this is a huge improvement for you, and I don't think you should be frustrated. I think every time you do a challenge, you get better. Okay, I really like this one. This for me is a 10 out of 10, but there is one thing that bothers me. One thing that bothers me is I feel like this whole teardrop shape should be just brought up just a little bit because it's not symmetrically in the right position. It should start right about here and the and it should be pulled up to up just about here. And that would make the piece just a little bit better for me. I think the background and the colors are just really good. Like the color choice is just really good here, really interesting. And a clever choice of compositional organization to make a really intriguing piece and really interactive piece in that you stare at it, it stares back at you. This is just a really good piece. I love this one. I think that's my only suggested improvement. Slide this up a little bit. I feel very similar about this one. I really like this one a lot. You guys, both of the fish illustrations here in this one have really done a good job of capturing the sand, the texture of the sand. And then the camouflage of the fish with the sand just works really well. The one thing I'm maybe not sure about is this black line. Let me see what happens if I can shut that off. Your sun rays casting through the water are very good. That's one thing that you did really well that maybe Will should have tried. Although I'm not sure if that would enhance or detract from his. It works really well with yours. I prefer that white line off. What is holding that line? So I think it looks better with this little highlight white edge off, and I think it would look better if you could shut this black edge off, but I can't shut that off. Otherwise, I have zero complaints about this. 10 out of 10. Good level up for you. So a lot of people have this idea where they're going to do like crystal clear foreground, blurry background, which is what is it? Yeah. So Cam and Bella did this and did this well. I think you did not do it well. I think and just look at clearly what the difference is here. In here, the crossover regions from one color to the other is perfectly infinitely blended and blurry. Ditto with Bella's. Yours are sharp lines, so it looks like fake camouflage printed on a t-shirt. And so that could have been just such an easy fix where you're just blurring these regions together. With that said, I think the bug for you is a huge step up. The bug for you is a huge level up. The texture on the bug is actually coming to the point where it looks realistic. So you're actually starting to get an inherent sense of doing texture. Although I think the texture on the wing is not quite there, but this is good. I wish what you would have done is just taken your bug, which you clearly spent the most time on, and literally scaled it up so that it was like this big. And then you wouldn't have to worry so much about filling the extra space. Like that is another thing that I just don't understand is I feel like students don't understand that you can't ignore the other parts of the space. They have to all be treated properly. So you can't just have like uber realistic insect and then terrible background and terrible twig. You have to either use tricks like compositional sizing to avoid having to put the other work into the other things, or you need to put the work in and make it look good. For example, here the petal is treated well, and here the leaves are treated well. Whereas you kind of just have superficially not copy pasted, that's not the wrong word, but it looks like you pasted this insect on top of sort of like a bad drawing. And so like the legs are not interacting well with the stem. And you can take notes from Bella, who kind of fixed that with shadows. So if ever you have a insect interacting with the surface, you need to put the shadows properly so that it looks like it's actually standing on that surface. Otherwise, it'll look like you just copy pasted it on. So I think again, like you're having huge improvements week by week. You're always getting better. And so that's a really good sign. But there are these little mistakes that need to be corrected in the future.